One event that's been seen that's kind of quite incredible. And I'm just wondering if you have a sense of what that event might have been involving Anne Boleyn as a ghost.
I think it has something to do with the way she looked. By any chance, did she walk around with her head under her shoulder like that?
Oh my God. There goes. Bing! You stole that. Absolutely.
Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the slow burn storytelling podcast where our host, Nicola, challenges her psychic friend Darcy to communicate with the dead and unravel historical ghost stories, unsolved true crime mysteries, and all things paranormal. If you want to be spooked, amazed, and entertained, stick around for an astonishing, deep dive convo with the spirits on the other side. RadioSidney presents episode 42, Death in the Bloody Tower.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Nicola?
I'm good. And just before we started recording, Darcy mentioned something to me which just about pushed me out of my chair and through the screen to rip her head off. So I'll just let you take the lead here, Darcy. What did you ask me when we first started to talk?
I said to you, you're really going to hate me because are we doing Anne Boleyn or Mary Queen of Scots?
Jeez. And yes, we are doing one of those ladies. Okay. That's all I'm going to give you now because you've just blown everything. I'm going to ask you, how did you come about with that? You haven't even got the photographs. You just got them. How did you come about with one of those gals?
I don't know. I was laying on the floor, as I said, and my daughter was working on my back. And all of a sudden I go to her, she's going to hate me because it's Mary Queen of Scots or Anne Boleyn.
It just came to your head like that?
Yeah, just like that. And that actually surprised me because I didn't expect to feel anything.
Oh, crap. Well, I always, bow down to your abilities, Darcy. But today is, I think the one where you guessed or you held up the letter M and then you said, are we going to talk about Marilyn Monroe? Like that happened within 3 minutes of our conversation. So I thought that was pretty astounding, and it was astounding. But we didn't even start the conversation today. No. You started it and already stole my thunder. Good grief.
Well, sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. It's just it's remarkable and wonderful to see your abilities shine through as always.
I put it down to being on holidays and having spirit chatter away at me.
Oh, okay. How long are you on holidays for?
Oh, I was on holidays. I'm back now. I came back last week.
Oh, okay. So, did you have a nice time off?
I did have a great time off.
Oh, good. Okay, well, let's start our storyline anyway. We know which woman it is. I can tell you that much. Okay, well, I'm going to say, hey, Darcy, it's nearly December 2023, and there's nothing I like more for Christmas than hearing a super spooky and riveting ghost story. You know, the kind from Dickens, where folks gather around a crackling fire on Christmas Eve and they sip claret and brandy. They try to scare one another by telling spine-tingling supernatural tales. So how about you, Darcy? You like the Victorian tradition of telling ghost stories around Christmas?
I'm more for Halloween and ghost stories.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. Well, today, given that I love ghost stories around Christmas, we're going to be meeting a number of famous historical spooks, all haunting one of the world's most well-known and visited landmarks. Normally I would say, hey, Darcy, you got an inkling of what we're going to investigate today? And you told me already, two very famous ladies. So we're going to be investigating one of those, but I'll make it difficult for you because, as I say, you always rise above any challenge I give you. So we're off across the pond, to the old country, to jolly old England. As we've experienced previously in several riveting Seeing Dead People episodes, Darcy, this small but mighty country is steeped not only in history, but in otherworldly occurrences. So can you zero in on our locale?
Is it Edinburgh?
No.
So then it would be the tower, London Tower, right?
Oh.
London Tower. Yeah, it's in my head. London Tower falling down, falling down, falling down.
Well, I could like skip right ahead here. Yes. Okay. We're going to have a look at photo number 1. Okay.
Okay.
Pull my photos up here. Okay. Photo number 1. And we're going to see, you're going to tell us, what are we looking at? Photo number 1, Darcy.
We are looking at a map, City of London. And right there it says the Tower.
Exactly. Now we are right on the banks of the fabled Thames River, in the middle of the legendary Square Mile, where we have the awe-inspiring site of the Tower of London. It's also known as His Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress of the Tower of London. And note the His Majesty, Darcy. I guess we're going to have to get used to using the male pronoun now.
Yes, we are.
So the Tower of London, which millions visit yearly to gasp at the spectacular crown jewels, among other remarkable sights, is really an overarching title for a sprawling 12-acre complex of 13 towers, secondary buildings, all connected by tunnels, parapets, walkways, and still protected by 2 surrounding stone wall curtains, and though now filled in, moat. The tower originally had a curious water entry from the Thames, so prisoners were brought in by boat under the infamous Traitor's Gate. Now, William the Conqueror in 1066, we're talking nearly 1,000 years ago, Darcy, began building the tower complex. It's been a fortress, a royal residence, a royal coining mint, an arsenal, a menagerie for animals, a public records office, but most appropriately for our discussion today, Darcy, the Tower of London has been a jail for political prisoners and a place of execution. Now, also not surprisingly, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So on my post-university European sojourn, many lifetimes ago, Darcy, I zipped by the crown jewels and was duly impressed. How about you? You ever visited the Tower of London?
Not the Tower of London. We actually saw the crown jewels in Edinburgh.
Oh, those castles. Okay. All right. Well, I've seen the English crown jewels. Probably pretty darn similar. Very fancy looking glass, aren't they? Well, I'm hoping you're already got, obviously, some kind of paranormal inklings going on here. So with 3 million people visiting the Tower of London yearly, there are obviously tons of opportunities to witness paranormal shenanigans. Not to mention the amount of energy. I was thinking of you, and I was thinking there must be a lot of energy coming off 3 million people that might even bring those old stone structures to life, much less, the ghosts that might be within. So tucked inside the dead center of this Tower of London complex is the spectacular White Tower. It's a fortified castle. It's called a keep, and that is a weird word for the strongest, most protected structure in a castle complex. The keep contains lodging suitable for its lord owner, and in this case, of course, it's our new British King, Charles III. So the Tower of London boasts many famous ghosts, Darcy, and otherworldly occurrences. So it's going to be perhaps a bit of a challenge to you. You might have to push a few ghosts out of the way. But today we're going to focus on just a few of the buildings within the complex that are reputed to be haunted, because I'm hoping you're going to encounter some of the well-known and well-documented spirits. And of course, any visits from anyone, any supernatural resident, please let us know about them.
Okay.
So have a look at photo number 2, which gives you an overview of the Tower of London complex.
All right.
Have a look and tell us what I've got marked there, what you see.
Okay, there is White Tower, like you said, right in the center, number 1. St. Peter's Chapel, which is number 2. Executioner's Block, which I think is 11.
Yeah.
And then the Green Tower, which is number 12. And the Bloody Tower, wow, they really like their tower word, don't they? And the Bloody Tower, which looks like it's number 25.
Yeah. I just wanted to let you know that the Tower Green, you mentioned it was Green Tower. It's actually the green as in the grass.
Oh, Tower Green. Oh, okay.
So like the lawn of the tower, and they call it Tower Green.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So we are going to visit those locations today, and we're going to see who pops up and visits you.
Well, so, number 1, by any chance, is King George. Is that his name?
I don't know. There's a lot of Georges. I don't know.
I don't know which one it is. Or I just hear King George.
Oh, do you? Okay. Oh, you're already getting a hint of it. Okay, so we're already through the Trader's Gate, and we're into the complex. But I want to take you first to the St. Peter's Chapel, okay, which is the little one up in the upper sort of left part. It's a gorgeous little stone chapel named St. Peter ad Vincula, which in Latin means in chains. So St. Peter in chains. Now, I'm looking for an incredibly famous ghost here. And I've got 4 photos of this little chapel. Now, I don't know if you want to go through photo by photo like we do normally, or if you'd like to scan all 4 photos and see who pops out before you talk to us. What would you like to do?
I think I'm going to go through the four photos and see who's Guy Fawkes is in here somewhere too, right?
Very good. Guy Fawkes is in here somewhere.
Okay.
Why do you know that?
I don't know. The name just came into my head when I skipped over.
Okay.
Okay, in St. Peter's.
Yeah, so we have the exterior wall chapel view.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have another exterior approaching it. Then an interior, beautiful little interior. That it's obviously a lovely little chapel. And then we have a grave marker in the ground, in the floor.
Okay, can I ask, is this where Anne Boleyn was?
Absolutely. This is where Anne Boleyn, this grave marker is Anne Boleyn's grave marker. So you've jumped freaking right ahead of me. I'm going to ask you if you can identify Anne Boleyn. Okay, think about her for a minute. I don't know. I couldn't identify her myself, just using the name. So I don't know if you can. But before I ask you to look at photo 7, I'd like you to give me a sense of what Anne Boleyn might look like.
Okay, so I'm only on photo 3 and 4.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So what do you see when you're hearing the words Anne Boleyn? What does the lady look like?
I would say probably smaller in stature than I am, because I'm 5'10", give or take a few inches.
Yeah.
I would have said dark hair by the looks of things, or she wore something dark on her head, and a crucifix on her neck. Dark clothes. Okay. Very soft features.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay. Like very well, mind you, they used to use rat poison to puff their face. So
yeah.
But was this this is actually like sort of like a church too, right? Because I hear mumbling as though I'm praying for something.
Absolutely. It is a chapel. It was a chapel, in the Tower of London. Whether it's used today as a chapel, I really couldn't tell you. But it was a chapel, and it was certainly a chapel in her time.
Oh, I guess the word chapel gives it away. I wasn't even paying attention to the word.
Yeah. Little church idea. Very nice. Well, I'll let you. I was just wondering, if you look at photo number 6, so 7 is that lovely interior. I don't know if you see anything happening there. In 5, do you see anything happening in 5?
I see a lot of people talking. I actually see nuns walking around. So, and I can see that person, when they
swing the incense.
Yes, thank you.
Very good.
And I can see that. I can hear the music, but it's really sort of like not upbeat music. It's more that keep him down, keep him down, keep him down is what I'm hearing.
Oh, okay. Well, I would imagine most music in a chapel or a church in those days would be kind of somber for sure.
Yeah.
Now have a look at number 6, which really is a shot of the location where, below this marking is this plaque is where Anne Boleyn is interred. I wondered if you caught, it's like a grave, obviously, whether caught from that.
Well, I actually feel a lot of peace now. It's a beautiful marker.
Isn't it?
It is. Those must be what's on her coat of arms.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, very complicated coat of arms, but lovely.
Yes. I think she was ready at the end, rather than fighting and struggling, feeling betrayed. I think at the end she was ready.
Wow.
So I
Okay,
remember from history, they cut her head off, right?
absolutely, they cut her head off. Yes, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Have a look at photo number 7.
Just a minute. Oh,
So very similar to what you described. She's very lovely, has soft features. She has dark hair and wearing something dark on her head. Her hair is back. She does have that something around her neck, but it happens to be a B, I guess, for Boleyn.
yeah.
She's not wearing a cross. She was a very intelligent and very influential woman, and she was central to an incredibly ruthless and politically complicated intrigue during the 1500s with the English Tudor court. Of course, we're talking at this time, Henry VIII,
Yeah.
his many wives, the issue of no male heirs, a battle extraordinaire with the Pope and the Catholic Church, all resulting in the English Reformation and Henry's creation of the Church of England, with him, of course, as the leader. Not to mention poor Anne Boleyn's meteoric fall from grace, when tragically she couldn't produce the requisite male successor to the English throne. Henry VIII had to dispose of her, his second wife, so he could marry Jane Seymour to produce an heir. As you may recall, Jane and 3 later wives of Henry VIII also failed in this essential queenly responsibility. So Anne Boleyn was falsely accused of adultery, incest, and high treason and arrested in 1536. She was brought to imprisonment into the Tower of London via a boat, so she passed under the now infamous entrance, nicknamed after her and others as the Traitor's Gate. She was considered a traitor. She was later tried and convicted of all these charges, which were ridiculous, but Henry had to be rid of her. On May 19th, 1536, she was taken to the Tower Green, which we can see on our photo number 2, where she knelt and placed her lovely long royal neck upon the executioner's pillow block, and seconds later, a broad sword separated Anne Boleyn's head from her body. She was still young, Darcy. It's uncertain as to her exact age, but aged between 29 and 35.
Wow.
So pretty darn young. So have you any thoughts about Anne as I'm talking about her?
I feel like she's accepted that she can't fight the outcome.
Okay.
I would have thought people tried to rescue her, but my impression is they probably all got their heads chopped off too. I honestly believe that she would have been a dynamic power behind the throne.
Yes, I think she was. And I think she was really, because she couldn't produce the heir, with her personality, she was a real threat to Henry. She was not a meek, submissive kind of gal. And so he really had to go overboard to get rid of her so he could have another wife.
It must have haunted him, or she must have haunted him for quite some time.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really, really hope so. Well, she had the last laugh on old Henry, Darcy, because her daughter, Elizabeth I, known as the Virgin Queen, reigned after Henry for over 4 decades. And it was considered a golden age of the British Empire, so she was considered to be a very positive influence. So Anne did have a huge influence on the whole royal family, the history of royalty in Great Britain. Now, she is a very famous ghost here in the Tower of London. Visitors and staff have reported sounds, footsteps, glimpses of a ghostly woman looking, they say, kind of like, Anne here, within the chapel. Of course, there's the idea of cold, wind passing by you, that kind of thing, that you associate with paranormal activities. But there's one event that's been seen that's kind of quite incredible. And I'm just wondering if you have a sense of what that event might have been involving Anne Boleyn as a ghost.
I think it has something to do with the way she looked. Okay. I'm not 100% sure. I'm looking at the part where she had her head cut off.
Okay.
And by any chance, did she walk around with her head under her shoulder, like that?
Oh my God. There goes. Bing! You stole that. Absolutely. Have you ever heard, Darcy, of the dark and comedic song written in 1934 by a pair of guys called Weston and Lee about Anne Boleyn. I'm going to ask you to read. It's a tasteless ditty, in my opinion. Look at photo A, which is coming after photo number 7. Would you read this? This is a song.
Just a minute.
Take your time.
I got to bring it up.
Yeah, bring it up and make it big enough so you can see it.
This is, okay. With her head tucked underneath her arm. In the Tower of London, large as life, the ghost of Anne Boleyn walks, they declare. For Anne Boleyn was once King Henry's wife, until he made the headsman bob her hair. Yes, he did her wrong long years ago, and she comes up at night to tell him so. With her head tucked underneath her arm, she walks the bloody tower with her head tucked underneath her arm at the midnight hour.
Can you believe it? You
No.
nailed that. Like, are you seeing her wandering around with her head under her?
Yeah, that's because I totally missed that. I'd already jumped over to look at the photo where she knelt to have her head cut off.
Right.
Which is in a totally different section. I didn't look at that little ditty. And I'm looking at that and I can see her. She's picking up her head.
Good God. Have you ever heard the song? It goes, it's
Never.
It's I can't sing, but I'll give you the tune. It's with her head tucked underneath her arm. She walks the bloody tower with her head tucked underneath her arm at the midnight hour. That's how it goes.
Never heard it before.
The fact that you nailed Anne Boleyn as our first ghost, mainly, and then to know that Anne Boleyn, I didn't think you'd get that. I didn't think you'd get the fact that she carries her head around. That's astounding, Darcy. Way to go.
Well, it helps when she's standing in the window there and she's got her head under her arm.
Well, where are you seeing that?
Just above where you put Tower Green Public Domain on the left-hand side there. There's a lady looking out, but her head's down here, but her body's up higher.
Wait, what photo are you in?
Number 8.
Okay, hang on, Sarah.
That's too funny.
You see her in that one, number 8, the Tower Green.
Yeah.
Good God, because that's a commemorative memorial to those who, and we haven't even got to that yet, to those who have been executed. And there were only, I think, under a dozen people who were executed on that Tower Green. Wow. Many were executed on the Tower Hill beyond the Tower of London. So, okay, that's amazing. Now I'm going to give you one more challenge with Anne Boleyn. There's another remarkable sighting about Anne Boleyn and the chapel. Any idea?
Anne Boleyn in the chapel. I want to say I can see her kneeling. Okay, like, at the front.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's kneeling and I can see lights or candles flickering. But interesting enough, she's not carrying her head. That isn't there.
Maybe that's happening before she was executed.
It could have been. Yeah. But I do feel like there's a light. That light is really connected to her, whatever the light is. Like, someone lighting a candle.
Okay, well, there's been supposedly sightings of a procession of lords and ladies dressed in medieval garb walking down the aisle of the little chapel. And in front of them is this very petite, as you said, she's smaller than you are, but dynamic gal, beautifully dressed, but headless, Anne Boleyn.
Oh, wow.
Wow, eh? Can you imagine seeing that?
Yeah, that actually would be pretty cool, actually.
That would be, wouldn't it? That would be astounding. You would just be gobsmacked. Okay, well, we looked at photo 8 now, which is the place where the executioner's block was located. This area, this Tower Green and the buildings close to it have produced many ghostly encounters. Obviously, probably not surprising because the Tower Green itself is where the condemned took probably the last precious few moments of their lives to pace or to pray or to prepare or maybe to panic en route to their appointment with the nearby executioner's block. have a look at photo number 9. There is the location of the block. They were, of course, beheaded on that location. So anybody else popping up besides Anne for you there, Darcy?
Well, I keep seeing it's Henry the 4th, 5th, whatever.
Well, at the beginning you mentioned a George. Now you're talking Henry?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Henry the 6th here. Absolutely.
Okay. I know there's 2 other men here. And like I said, I mentioned Guy Fawkes. Yeah, that's right, right? The guy they did the eulogy or effigy of.
Yeah, he's the guy who tried to bring down the Parliament by blowing the place up. Exactly. That's Guy Fawkes Day in November, which actually just happened earlier this November. So that's famous Guy Fawkes. You're right. Okay. He announced this place.
And I know that there's either Duke or Lord or Sir or something there. I just don't know what the name is. And what's really interesting, you go to number 9. I'm going to show you something.
Okay, I'm on number 9.
Okay, if you look at number 9 and you go over to where the window is, there's a pillar and then there's a plant pot you can see.
Are we talking the upper left?
Left, yep.
Okay, yes.
Okay, and there's some sort of shadow there. It looks like 2 eyes.
Above the plant?
No, it's to the side, to the right of the plant.
Okay, sort of. You see something?
There's a shadow there. First of all, there's a face there, but the other thing is that looks like the back end of an animal.
Are you talking actually the stone part beside where the plant is? Shadow?
There's
I see. Toward a little bit further towards the middle between the tree and the corner. There's definitely a shadow, a face of some sort or a shadow of some sort. So you see a face or an animal you're talking about?
I see a face and I see the back end of an animal.
In that same shadow?
Yes.
What kind of animal? Can you guess?
Well, that looks bigger than a dog. It's not a donkey. It's got such a short little tail, though. Yeah, I don't quite know the animal because I only get the back rump end of it.
Okay.
But it's quite tall. It's like at least 4 feet tall, the back end of it. But it's not a horse.
Okay, well, let your mind roam because you're narrowing in on what sort of animal would be that large with a small tail. You're not going to expect to see it in England, but you'd expect to see it in Canada.
Expect to see it in Canada.
Yeah. Wild.
Is there another photo close like this that I can?
No, I mean, that's just a pure fluke you're finding that shadow, for heaven's sake. I didn't even notice it.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay. We could roll. The animal might appear again because you are right. This place was a menagerie like hundreds of years ago. A lot of strange animals, but one in particular, large animal causing problems, ghostly problems. So you're nailing in very nicely on that.
Okay, see, if it had a longer tail, I'd say it was a lion.
Okay, nope. Think Canadian wilderness. Think BC. We get them all the time.
Okay, a bear.
A bear, exactly.
You should have said, think of your last name. I would have got it faster.
That's true. Sorry. I was thinking animals. Yes, I don't know how you get that because I'm going to circle that when I put it up. I just see, it's an unusually shaped
shadow.
It could be anything for crying out, Darcy.
Okay.
You can get from it a bear at the back end and a short tail.
And the other guy has a monocle in his eye.
I can see an area where there's an eye, possibly. Yeah. Okay,
but I don't know. It's got to be like a lord or someone because of the monocle.
Got it. Okay. All right. Get it. Okay. Well, there's one other individual I'm hoping you would see here.
Okay. I know I get another lady. I know I get a man.
Go with the lady.
Okay. Well, I can't see anything about her. I just can see the flowing hair and she's young.
Okay. Oh, and how young is young?
Oh, under 25.
Okay, well done, because another woman of tragedy from the same Tudor history, only 17 years after the death of Anne Boleyn, there was Lady Jane Grey.
Ah,
Lady Jane was only 16. She was of royal blood, but she became an unwitting pawn to the convoluted Machiavellian shenanigans behind the succession to the Tudor throne. I mean, it's impossible to figure that stuff out. I don't know how they ever did it. She was proclaimed queen in 1553, but sadly ruled a mere 9 days, Darcy,
wow.
before cousin Mary defeated Jane's forces, and Mary asserted her claim to the throne. So Lady Jane Grey, just like poor Anne Boleyn, was arrested, falsely charged with high treason. We know what the punishment is for that.
Yeah,
before, yep, and sent into the Tower of London, tried and convicted, and had her head chopped off in 1554 on that actual block area. Amazing. Photo number 10, you will see our gal, Lady Jane Grey.
Well, she's very pretty.
Yeah.
Very. And reddish hair.
Yes, there seems to be a lot of reddish hair in the Tudor side. You'll see other pictures, and there's lots of red hair.
Yeah, I would have said she'd probably would have actually given a chance, done a great job.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Because she's very, if you look at her eyes, she looks like someone could push her over, right? But she's got a solid jaw, and her eyes seem to know things.
Yeah, she does have a far away kind of confident look, doesn't she? And she does have that solid chin. It's like it's set like granite there.
Yeah.
And she is lovely. So imagine 16 years of age. You'd have to walk across that Tower Green and kneel down and have someone chop your head off. I mean, I can't imagine it.
Me neither. I'd go kicking and screaming and probably hitting a few people in the nuts.
Okay. Well, we're now going to move to the actual White Tower, Darcy, the Keep, as it's called. Have a look at photo 11. We got a spectacular shot of the White Tower in the Tower of London complex from the Thames River. Isn't it just the epitome of a medieval castle?
It is. It's very majestic and sturdy, and like there definitely would be a stronghold.
Yes, exactly. Now this, as we all know, we've seen it. Once you see this picture, you recognize it. It's on all promotional materials, of course, for the Tower of London, because it's just so classically beautiful. It's a large square stone castle with rounded windows and 4 cupola top corner towers. Unlike Disney's fairy tale castle, the White Castle is built tough, serious, real working castle out of heavy stone with 1,000 years of history embedded in every nook and cranny. So we're actually seeing people here, Darcy, who were executed in the Tower Green of this area. Now I'm going to show you 6 photos of this White Tower. Again, we can walk through them one by one, or you can have a look at the photos yourself and then come to us and tell us what you're seeing, because I'm hoping you're going to encounter some spirits. What would you like to do? Go one by one or scroll yourself?
We can go one by one.
Okay, let's look. Do you see anything happening in the main one, photo 11, the sort of a long view one?
No, nothing. Just a lot of crying.
A lot of what?
Crying.
Crying. Okay. Age of the criers?
People who are crying out to get help, and they don't, that type of thing, don't want to die.
And would you say they're men, women, whatever?
It's a combination, men, women, children.
Children. Ooh, okay. Let's look at photo 12. It's a lovely shot, a close-up of one of the corners of the White Tower.
Okay, is this the side that either Anne or Lady Jane was in?
They both were in this tower, yes.
Okay, because it looks like one's above and one's below.
Where are you talking, above and below what?
In the first window to the second window, like right in the center.
Yep.
There you can see an arm stuck out the window.
Okay, so we're talking dead center.
Yep.
The center window is larger with an arch, and then the little one above it. Okay, that's what we're talking about?
Yep.
Okay, where's the arm sticking out?
On the center one, second floor, or the arm, because at one point those wouldn't have had glass on them.
Correct, yes.
So I can see an arm stuck out the window.
Whose arm does it belong to?
I think it might be Lady Jane.
Oh, okay. And are you seeing both Lady Jane and Anne Boleyn here?
I get the impression of Anne Boleyn being up higher.
Okay. Do you see her like really high, like up on the parapet part? Or
I do believe she used to walk up there. Yes.
Absolutely. Now, how do you know that? That's one of the famous sightings of her, is walking the parapets of the White Tower.
Because there was that impression of someone walking. And that would have given her air. She still would have been captive. She wouldn't have been able to flee. So that would be my place to put her.
Okay, but do you see her walking after death?
Yes, after death, with her head still under her arm.
She walks the bloody tower.
You would think that she'd probably stick her head on.
Although that it would stay. I think that's the problem.
Was Margaret connected to her?
Who's Margaret?
I don't know. Just the name.
Okay, hang on to that, you devil. Jeez Louise, this is like ridiculous today. Okay, so let's dive inside this White Tower and see what we can find, okay?
Okay.
Photo number 13. There, would you say our gal is strolling along those?
Oh, yeah. Better looking. Yep, definitely.
Yeah. And is she carrying her head?
She varies. Sometimes it's on her shoulders, and she's an angel now because I can see her in the sky as well.
Do you see anybody else in 13?
I'm going to say I can still see Lady Jane, so she must have been able to go up there too.
Okay. You're saying you're seeing Lady Jane when she was alive, getting a chance to go up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know of a guy up there who would wear blue?
Frig, I have no idea. Sorry. I'm sure there was a possibility. Yeah. Okay. You're seeing that though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's go inside of this amazing tower and photo number 14. Can you see photo 14?
Just a minute. Finding it.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, wow. Look at them march down that hallway.
Who's marching down the hallway? We have a gloomy, rough-hewn stone passage. Yeah. Nobody's there, Darcy. Nobody's there.
I can see, Anne Boleyn, Lady Jane, soldiers walking with those pikes, that.
Exactly.
And I can see Henry the Sixth, you said?
Yeah, I think it's him. Yeah.
And was her daughter in there? Was Queen Elizabeth?
She was born. I don't know if she spent time in the White Tower at all, but yes, she was. I mean, she certainly was around. I don't know if she was ever in the tower, though. I have to say, she would be a little kid.
I think as a child, she was in there too.
Okay, because I believe she was only like 2 or 3 when her mom was beheaded.
Executed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well then you're seeing our 2 gals and their surrounding soldier type.
Yeah. And
maybe Henry of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's look at photo 15, which is another shot of a really lovely kind of winding staircase, again in this rough-hewn, I guess it's a bricked up archway, but it's really quite dramatic. I'm wondering if you see anybody creeping up those stairs or down those stairs.
Well, going up, I would say once again, this is the route Anne Boleyn would have taken.
You think?
Yeah, because I can feel, I hear the rustle of a skirt.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So, like that heavy material when it's going up.
Yep.
And obviously they've redone the stairs and made them wood, but those were uneven stone steps at one point.
Yeah.
Able to touch those walls and hear what they had to say.
Can you imagine? Yeah, you probably could.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, our last photo of the White Tower is number 16. It's a photo of some sort of entrance with these, huge supporting beams as part of the entrance. I'm just wondering if you see anybody there.
Actually, you can see dignitaries like lords, sirs. ambassadors
Yes. Okay.
from overseas.
All I see is a few real people that were in the photograph dressed like, you and I would dress in today. So, okay. Now, this White Tower has the dubious distinction of being the most haunted location in the Tower of London complex. There's one other woman that haunts this tower. And yes, Lady Jane Grey, yes, but there's someone else. You mentioned someone earlier. Have you any sense?
Margaret?
Yes, a lady named Margaret. Can you tell us about Margaret?
She's older. Definitely there's an older age to her than even Anne Boleyn. She's fair skinned, and I don't know if she's like noble. I didn't think she was married to one of the kings though. Was she?
Okay. No, she wasn't.
Okay. But I do feel like she's there because either she spoke her mind, she wrote her mind, she did something that would have pissed someone off.
Okay, well, very good. Her name is Margaret Pole, and she has royal lineage, but sort of lesser royal lineage. She was the Countess of Salisbury. So as you said, she was not married to a king. She was married to someone, a count, less royal in stature, I guess. Her son, unfortunately, became a vocal critic of good old Henry VIII. This all seemed to happen around Henry VIII. As a result, Margaret and her family fell under suspicion. You're right. When we look at the photograph of Margaret, she is older. Her son was executed. Her lands and title were confiscated. And in 1536, Margaret Pole was sent to the Tower, as they say. She remained locked up for almost 5 years. And what happened to poor Margaret Pole? And if you look at photo number 16, maybe she can talk to you.
Well, I'm going to say they probably wanted to cut her head off. Okay, because that seems to be the thing.
It is.
But I'm not sure they were able to. Okay. Like, I don't know if she's one of the few people that actually kicked and screamed.
How do you come to that?
Because I'm looking at you. I don't want to look at the picture. Okay. So my impression would be she's older, more dynamic. She has more sense to herself. And damn if she's not going to die.
That's astounding. Says, I want you to look at image 17 and see if you recognize Margaret. Okay.
Okay. 17.
That's Margaret Pole. She faced a gruesome execution, if you can call, something gruesome that's not just an execution. She was literally, Darcy, sadly tortured to death because her executioner was inexperienced, led to a botched and prolonged beheading. So have a look at photo 18. And there is Margaret Pole kicking and screaming, trying to get away.
Oh my God.
She did her best, exactly what you said. She was not going down easily. And this fool of an executioner, unfortunately, did a horrendous job. And she was hacked to death. 67 years of age, completely innocent, hacked to death. Can you imagine?
No.
So what gives you the sense of what she did? How did you get that idea?
Just this feeling that, like, maybe it's because I'm close to that. Well, I still got a few years to go, but I would have fought at that age.
Right.
I mean, that's quite the age to even be alive at.
Exactly. You had already twigged to the name Margaret, and then you twigged to the fact that she was older. I don't know how you get that. Then to say, not only is she older, she's not someone who's going to go easily, and she didn't get an easy death. You knew all that. You're just hitting it out of the park at every moment today, Darcy.
That's fluke, because I honestly didn't think I'd find anything today at work. Here's what gave it away, okay? Because at one point they must have hit her hand with the axe.
Okay, why do you say that?
Because my hand has been killing me all day, and ever since we started talking about her, the pain seems to be going away.
Really? So you think I couldn't tell you if that's right or not, but I would, knowing you're probably dead on. Well, just to recap, Darcy, from an amazing historical coincidence, we have 3 royal ladies executed during what were 2 of the most turbulent decades of the British monarchy. Anne Boleyn in 1536, young Lady Jane Grey only 5 years later in 1541, and Margaret Pole, horribly hacked to death 13 years later in 54. In fact, when I think of it, and you already alluded to this, Margaret would have been an adult during the whole time that Anne Boleyn went down and Lady Jane Grey went down. So she knew what happened to these women, and then she had to go through it even worse herself.
What would even be worse is there's a good possibility she was in that audience that watched the heads come off.
Yeah, I wonder how this, because they were royalty, they were allowed to be, lucky them, beheaded in this area, and so protected from the sort of the public leering gaze.
Yes.
But whether, the royal people were able to come and watch, I don't know. That would be horrific, wouldn't it? Oh my God.
They would have been.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to head across the Tower Green, Darcy, from the White Tower to another stone edifice with the bone-chilling name of the Bloody Tower. Okay, so I've got 4 shots of this tower. The first in the photo number 19 is just a black and white sketch.
Yeah.
Okay, so you may not get as much from a sketch.
Yeah, not picking anything up.
Okay, and that was shows you the sort of a squarish block, almost like a wall, and there's some kind of shape of a tower in there.
Yeah,
but
so like a go-between.
Right, yeah, exactly. It is looking like it's kind of in between, like an arch. It does have an arch at the bottom. If you look at the next 3 photographs, then I don't know if you want to go one by one, but 20, 21, and 22 are showing us today, an image of today of this location, the Bloody Tower. Can you get a sense of anything from these 3 shots, Darcy?
I just feel like there's dead people hanging out in here.
Well, it's 1,000 years of history here, Darcy. I'm sure there's a few dead people, but I'm looking for 2 in particular. You got any ideas?
Are we talking, because I heard children were in the tower, are we talking children?
We're talking children. So when you say, I heard children in the tower, are you talking about our conversation when you mentioned you heard screams and there were cries of children?
Yes.
That's what you're twigging to?
Yeah.
Okay, you're correct. We have children here. Can you tell us anything more about these children?
Well, I'm thinking they're under 15.
Now, how did you get that?
Just by the sounds of the voice, how boys have a squeaky voice until a certain age, and they must be boys. I don't feel like they're girls.
So you're actually hearing young boys' voices. What's the sound of their voices? Are they saying actual words you can understand?
They're singing.
They're singing.
Yeah.
With their head tucked underneath their arm.
Yeah. No, more like a religious tune.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, you are you're right on, actually. We have what's called, and you probably have heard of this, the princes in the tower.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, Shakespeare made a famous play about it with Richard III. This is another incredible tale of the sort of royal family history. This happened 50 years before Anne Boleyn, so of course they couldn't sing with their head tucked underneath their arm because it hadn't happened. We have 2 young royal princes here. Prince Edward V, who was only age 12, you're right there, under 15, and Richard, Duke of York, his younger brother, aged 9. They were next in line to the throne. Their fate is an enduring historical enigma, and it's famously known as the puzzle of the princes in the tower. Now have a look at photo 23, and you'll see a romanticized painting of the 2 boys. They're beautiful and they're frightened. Do you get anything from that painting?
They are very beautiful. Like, they could be girls with that head of hair they both have.
Yes, I think it's pretty common in those days for the boys not to have their hair cut.
Yeah. And I would say I feel bad for them because they'll probably end up being butchered in this tower as well.
Well, let's move on and find out. Now I have another photograph which I think is a much more realistic image of these 2 boys. This was like a romanticized version of what you would think about like angelic boys, right? Have a look at 24 photo. You'll see 2 much more realistic looking young men with real features. I think they look a lot more like they probably did look. Edward V and the Duke of York.
Yeah.
So are you getting anything from this photograph about these 2 young men?
Were they kept in this tower for a long time before they, I want to say they were killed too.
Okay, well, you're very, very close. They were kept in this tower. The issue was, you see, Edward, the 12-year-old, had been recently declared king because his father died suddenly. Okay, since he was only 12, his uncle Richard, the Duke of Gloucester, assumed the role of Lord Protector until the boy would come of age. They were living in the Tower of London, and as I mentioned before, the White Tower is considered the keep, and it's the place that's highly fortified with residences for the Lord. This young man is the Lord at that time. So it was normal for the royals to live there while they were waiting for the coronation. He was declared king, but of course he hadn't had his coronation yet. However, his coronation never took place, Darcy. The Duke of Gloucester, their uncle, had their parents' marriage declared invalid. Just, how you do these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Rendered Edward and his brother to be illegitimate. And in 1483, the Duke was crowned Richard III. So you've told us the boys have been held in this tower. You are correct. Can you tell us, are the boys telling you what their fate was, Darcy?
Can I ask if they were poisoned?
You can ask, and I can tell you I don't know the answer.
Oh.
The reason I don't know the answer is that no one knows the answer. The puzzle of the princes in the tower is unsolved. Most believe they were murdered, probably at the behest of their uncle. How and when have been questions that have consumed people for centuries. Were they smothered? Were they poisoned, as you suggest? Did they drown? However, in 1674, so a couple hundred years later, during the reign of Charles II, the skeletons of 2 children were discovered under a staircase in the Bloody Tower. If you look at photos 20 and 22, so we go back a little,
okay,
you'll see the right-hand side, there's a little window on 22, and on 20, again, there's that little window to the right of the arch.
Okay.
There in there is a staircase. And underneath that staircase, these skeletal remains were found.
Huh.
Their identities were unknown when they were found. Obviously, this is 1674. They just find bones. They think they're Edward V and Richard, Duke of York. They were eventually removed and reinterred in the Westminster Abbey with other royals. Then even more happened. In 2012, the University of Leicester conducted a scientific investigation on the bones, including DNA analysis, and found the bones belonged to 2 individuals, male, most likely brothers, and were consistent with the ages of our missing pair of princes. So that was the story till very recently. Do you have any comments before I tell you some earth-shattering news that's really just come out?
Okay. Now I feel like they're still in the tower.
Okay, well, this is very interesting because it's unsolved. But a gal, and I've got to say that a note about the fate of Richard III himself, the guy who supposedly engineered all this, he died in battle only a couple of years later. He was the last British king to do so, so that's pretty cool. Now, amazingly enough, there's a gal named Philippa Langley, and she's an amateur historian in Leicester, and her research on her own led to the discovery of Richard III's bones under a car parking lot in the city of Leicester in 2013.
Wow.
Can you believe it? She was dismissed by all the authoritarian historians. No one knew where Richard III was buried, but she figured it out by going through extensive research on documents. She knew where it was and eventually convinced the city to dig it up, and they dug it up, and there was Richard. And this was a guy with the old malformed humpback.
Yeah.
He's famous for Richard III. So this gal, Philippa Langley, amazing. Well, just recently, Darcy, within the last couple of weeks, it's been released that Philippa has struck again. She and a group of, I think, 300 amateur historians around Europe went doing research on the boys in the tower, the princes. And she believes that the boys were smuggled out of the towers and taken to other countries like France and Portugal and Spain, and eventually brought back to England and tried in their own ways to overthrow the throne and become king. There are actual historical events where young boys were brought forward as these two boys to reclaim the throne. So that actually happened. Whether it was these two boys or not, we don't really know. But she and her research, they really believe that the two boys made it out. As to what happened to them, I don't know. But I thought that was astounding. We're talking about this today. This just came out. What do you think of that? Do you have a sense that that might have been possible?
I'm going to say anything is feasible. I'm going with, I'm pretty sure they died there.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. Okay, so that's interesting. You're sticking with the common understanding. We'll have to see how much of this information comes out and how they can prove the possibility that these two boys were the princes. What I don't understand is though they did DNA analysis, and they didn't do extensive enough DNA analysis to prove their literal royal lineage. Yeah. And I believe Queen Elizabeth II, who just passed away, of course, a year ago, refused to let them take their bones out and test them, believing that they were royal and they deserve to stay properly buried. So I don't think that they're ever going to be able to, get in there and find those bones. So we may never get an answer to this. Do you think they were murdered?
I do.
You do. And do you have a sense of how they were murdered? Do you think you mentioned poison before? I'm
going with the poison.
You're going with the poison. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's sort of a coward's way out of killing someone, isn't it? But it's certainly, you don't have to chop their head off. You don't have to strangle them. You don't have to touch them. It doesn't have to be that personal.
Yeah.
And I'm sure boys, you could easily slip something into their food and they would just, what a sad thing. Go to sleep. Yeah.
Okay.
So that pretty well sums up our visit ghost stories to the Tower of London today, Darcy. And I've got to say, the only ghosts that let you down were the princes a little bit. And it might be because they're young and they are not able to communicate as well. But man, you nailed Anne Boleyn, Lady Jane Grey, Margaret. You talked about Henry. I'm sure King George is around here somewhere. So well done. I'm just blown away. I've just got to sit and think about this afterwards as to how much you managed to beat me today. Very good. And you are right. I want to bring us back to the bear. The terrifying bear has been seen in the Tower of London complex as a ghostly figure over the years. And that's from the idea that many, many decades, if not centuries ago, it was a menagerie with lions and tigers and all kinds of animals were kept at the Tower of London.
That's pretty cute, actually.
It is. Now, I don't think any of the other ones haunt it, but the bear definitely has scared quite a few people there.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you, Darcy. That was that was a wonderful visit to the Tower of London. I'm just so impressed by your abilities today. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did, and I'm going to say I'm even impressed with myself today.
And I hope you'll consider yourself going to the Tower of London one day and see what you encounter or who you encounter.
Oh, absolutely.
Just keep your eye out for the big bear, man. I don't want you to get hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much. Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you for listening to Seeing Dead People, where goosebumps are guaranteed. We would love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. Please shoot us an email to info@radiosidney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes air on our website, radiosidney.ca, on the first Saturday of every month. Episodes repeat Saturday nights at 8 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., both Pacific time. All episodes are available as downloadable podcasts at our website or on our YouTube channel, Nicola Furlong Mysteries. I'm Dorian Mortis, weirdly keen on seeing dead people.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.